Before we dive in today, are you on LinkedIn? I'm a big fan of LinkedIn for Nonprofits. It's a suite of tools, free resources, and exclusive discounts curated just for you, nonprofits. According to their research, 85% of nonprofit professionals say LinkedIn helps them achieve their organizational goals. And that's not by chance. Need to find that perfect program director? Want to build relationships with corporate donors? Or are you looking to build an engaged community of supporters? LinkedIn for Nonprofits gives you proven tools to make it happen. Visit nonprofit.linkedin.com to unlock your exclusive nonprofit discounts and resources today. You can also visit the link in the show notes. This podcast is proudly brought to you by LinkedIn for Nonprofits. Now, let's get to today's episode.
We see across LinkedIn the power of video in building relationships. And video is the fastest growing format on LinkedIn right now, with uploads increasing 34% year over year. And if you're not already making videos, it's a great time to start. In fact, in a recent survey that we found that LinkedIn members are more likely than the average internet user to donate to nonprofit organizations, which is incredible. And I think says something about the incredible community and audience that is on LinkedIn.
I'm Dana Snyder, your host of the Missions to Movements podcast. And my path to philanthropy has been anything but traditional. This show is your weekly mastermind, designed to give you the ideas, insights, and support you need to push the boundaries of what's been done before in nonprofit marketing and fundraising. Whether you're looking to build a magnetic monthly giving program, elevate your personal brand, or create partnerships that amplify your impact, this space is for you. I'll bring you solo episodes and conversations with industry leaders, offering actionable strategies and fresh perspectives that will move you and your mission forward. Let's turn your mission into a movement. Hi, friend. You may have noticed that on LinkedIn, video has become pretty prominent. And there's lots of reasons for that. One, it's a great way to tell your stories. It's how we love to consume and engage with content. And so to dive into how exactly video is being consumed, utilized specifically for nonprofits. Just last week, I was invited by LinkedIn for Nonprofits to do a LinkedIn Live with Scott Rising. He is the Senior Content Marketing Manager at LinkedIn, and I was so honored. And I wanted to share this conversation with you. So there is a link in the show notes to the actual LinkedIn Live that has all the visuals that go along with it, some of the video examples that we discuss. But this is your audio only version on the show, repurposed. So this was making the most of video for your nonprofit, a LinkedIn Live presented by LinkedIn for Nonprofits. Hope you enjoy.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to Making the Most of Video for Your Nonprofit. I'm Scott Rising, Senior Content Marketing Manager at LinkedIn, and I am thrilled to be here with Dana Snyder, author of the Monthly Giving Mastermind and host of Missions to Movements podcast. Hi, Dana. How you doing?
Hey, Scott. Thanks for having me. Super excited to be here with everybody. The chat is already on fire. So we are getting started for an amazing session. So thanks for having me.
Yeah, well, everyone watching, I'm already seeing people dropping in nonprofits that they work for, where they're coming from. I see the Children's Law Center in DC. I see people from Nigeria. It's always really exciting. Make-A-Wish, an incredible organization, Make-A-Wish Illinois. So I think it's an awesome opportunity for all of you to network with the people that are watching. But Dana, I would love if you could just give everyone a little bit of an intro about what you do and why you're here today.
Absolutely. So my name is Dana Snyder. Thank you for the brief intro earlier. My jam is to really equip nonprofits with the knowledge and the tools to build sustainable monthly giving programs all over the world to really help us cultivate audiences of philanthropists where everybody can feel like a philanthropist and give back and really create this charitable living. And I love LinkedIn. So I'm a big fan of you and everything that the LinkedIn for Nonprofits team is doing. And so I have a LinkedIn actually episode on my podcast that I want to share with everybody. But I'm here because I've really been testing video myself on the platform. And so I'm happy to share a little bit of behind the scenes of what I've seen work really well, and with some amazing organizations. I know we're going to review some examples with everybody in just a little bit too.
Amazing. Well, thanks everyone for joining. And what we're going to do today, we're going to walk you through how to create video content for LinkedIn that helps get your organization noticed. We're going to provide a bit of context about why video is so important and give you tips, best practices. Of course, some examples we're really excited to share with you. And we also want to hear your questions. I think this is, there's a reason that we wanted to speak specifically to nonprofit professionals. The needs of nonprofits are different than other creators and brands. So definitely would love to hear what you want to get out of this session today. And also share some exciting new resources that dive deeper into the video topics that we're discussing. So first off, we do have a new LinkedIn for Nonprofits resource hub that has a page all about video. Bookmark it, use it as your guide as you create videos on LinkedIn. And I think no matter what size of nonprofit that you work for or volunteer with, videos can be a really effective way to reach, engage, and persuade your audience and really build a relationship so that when you do need to come with some of the asks you may have, whether that's for financial or for volunteers, that you already have an established relationship. And we see across LinkedIn the power of video in building relationships. And video is the fastest growing format on LinkedIn right now, with uploads increasing 34% year over year. And if you're not already making videos, it's a great time to start. In fact, in a recent survey that we found that LinkedIn members are more likely than the average internet user to donate to nonprofit organizations, which is incredible. And I think says something about the incredible community and audience that is on LinkedIn. And 72% of LinkedIn members say that they post about nonprofits that they care about on social media. And 67% of surveyed global nonprofit professionals agree that LinkedIn is a valuable tool for
Oh,
fundraising.
this is so good, Scott. So I want to chime in here real quick because I'm a perfect example of this. So 2 years ago on International Women's Day, Gloria Umana is the founder of an organization called the Hope Booth. And I happened to be looking on International Women's Day for an organization to join as a new monthly donor in my community. I live in Atlanta. And she posted something about the Hope Booth as a founder on LinkedIn. It was the perfect time. I was on LinkedIn. I was looking for a new nonprofit to support, found her post. It was super inspiring, clicked through. And now 2 years later, I'm still a member of the movement, their monthly giving program, and just hosted a fundraiser at my house as like a birthday party on last Friday. So literally what he's saying are not just stats on the screen, it's reality. So point person right here, as this is true.
Yeah, I think that's such a great example. Thank you for sharing it. Because I think that you're not only building relationships between your nonprofit and
Mm,
potential donors, potential staff, potential volunteers, but you're also on like more of an individual basis too, like as a
totally.
person, like you're building a brand as a nonprofit professional. It's really valuable for you to, have these one-to-one relationships that you can build using video, using LinkedIn.
Absolutely.
And also like that one to many and what happens that in the kind of magic that happens in the comment section.
Yes, definitely. I mean, I think video creates this unique ability for connection and community and trust, and relatability that can't always happen, maybe sometimes with text. I mean, in the comment section, would love to know when's the last time you watched a video and you really felt moved by something. And so I think it gives people this opportunity to, especially if your organization is maybe doing work internationally, and that can be really hard for somebody to relate to here in the States. And it lets us get like an inside peek of like, oh my goodness, I had no idea it was like this, or it looked like this, or it really allows people to feel a closer touch to it. So I think it really provides a connection point that moves someone to take action quicker than maybe a photo or just copy could do.
It's such a powerful way of sharing the impact that your organization is having, potentially the people that you're supporting or helping. And so just the storytelling ability that's unlocked through video is something that we're really starting to see take off on the platform compared to other formats. And if a picture shares, if a picture is 1,000 words, like what is a video? It's super compelling. And I do want to shout out some more people in the chat. I see we have someone from Rwanda, is an amazing country, Zambia, multiple people from Zambia, Nigeria, a lot of Nigeria, Tanzania. Shout out to Africa for having such incredible representation on the chat today. But yeah, keep the questions coming and we'll definitely get to them a little bit later in the conversation. And so, really that relatability, the inside peek, bringing stories to life. Nonprofits have some of the best stories around, and that's what video can do. I think, Dana, I think you have an example that you wanted to highlight for us today.
Yeah, I think another good video case study outside of just storytelling about your organization is you are a subject matter expert in the cause area that you focus on. And LinkedIn's a really great educational platform as well. So I have an example of a video that will play in just a second. But earlier this year, I wrote my 5 predictions for nonprofit marketing. And the video I'm about to play, just to tell you how it was produced first, and then you can watch it. It was recorded on my iPhone. I bought this little mic kit on Amazon. I'm sure you've seen these little doodads where you like plug this part into the bottom of your phone and then you hold the tiny microphone so that it gives you like a better quality. It's $20. And the phone was leaning against my computer for this. I didn't even have a tripod. And what you'll see on the video is my notes app on my phone. I had bulleted the 5 predictions that I had. And I used like the green screen functionality that you see on Instagram where like the notes are behind me. And then it was just me on camera as I spoke. So I was sharing a condensed version of what was a podcast episode about my 5 predictions. And this video, you never know what's going to resonate with people. 1.2 million impressions from this video. And so I'll go ahead and let the team cue it up and we can talk about it a little bit afterwards. Let's talk 2025 nonprofit marketing and fundraising predictions, shall we? I share a full context for all of these in my podcast that got released on Christmas Day. However, I want to dive into the 5. 1, AI, game changer for nonprofits. I think we're getting way more comfortable, but how can we get really creative and innovative on how we use AI to streamline our processes, reduce silos in our teams, and help create really customized donor experiences? Number 2, the rise of impact creators and employee advocacy. Impact creators, these are people on social that we are giving our money to through Venmo or PayPal to donate on our behalf. And employee advocacy is about your employees becoming your influencers, becoming your content creators. Do you have a strategy for that? Are you thinking about it? Number 3, social selling and social giving 2.0. Gone are the days of the Facebook donate button. I think it's going into a completely different realm with how people are purchasing products on social. Number 4, the evolution of recurring giving programs. You know, I am big on this, but I think more so than just recurring first, it's building these sustainer-based teams to support these growing communities. And lastly, virtual, in-person, niche events, getting really, really, really tight into what your event's going to be about and curating a very impactful in-person or virtual experience. All right, video has played. Would love to know, like, Scott, what do you think?
No, it's great. And I think what people might, I'll just point out some things that might surprise people just looking at that video because they may have some preconceived notions about LinkedIn video. You'll notice that it's a vertical video, and we'll get into specs in a little bit. It's also super just real and authentic. I think there has been historically a perception that LinkedIn videos were like hero brand spots and super slick, highly produced. And we're seeing that the content, the videos that resonate do tend to look the way that your video looks.
Raw, real, yeah.
It looks like it's real. It's recorded on a phone. And I think so people may think, oh, I don't have a production team. I don't have the tools to create video. Creation is expensive. It has been historically. However, if you have a phone these days, you do have a very powerful video production tool in your pocket.
That's right.
Anything else you want to share about that video?
I mean, I just think that I focused on something that I had done research on. And so for you, organization, I would say, what are the things that you've already wrote a blog post about? What have you already spoken about in a presentation? What have you already done webinars on? What are you sharing in your email newsletters? It's repackaging something that you already know so well that you can talk about. So I think sometimes we get stuck in content mode of like, what exactly would I say? You've probably already said it in other platforms, and it's just bringing it into kind of like Scott, what you were saying, recording it on a phone. This was, I think it was 75 seconds roughly. So around a minute, a little bit longer. But yeah, most expensive part of it was buying the iPhone, which
You
most of us have.
already had.
Yeah.
100%. I think that's actually such an incredible, as a content social person, I do tell people all the time to like think about how you can take one piece of content and turn it into five. Is there a text post that you can turn
Right.
into a static asset? Can you make the static asset into a script for a video? Different people like to consume content differently, different channels reward content differently. So think video is a really just another way you can extend some of the existing content that you maybe are already making. So no need to think like have to completely start from scratch because you are probably already have the papers, research there. I'm sure all of your nonprofits have existing resources that you can mine for incredible content. Well, I often get kind of asked about like what works on LinkedIn. People ask me that all the time. And I wanted to share some of the five types of videos that are just kind of content that we see really be successful on LinkedIn. And one, it's really, career tips and work lessons really, really resonate. And I think, especially with nonprofits, it's such a passion point. There's a lot of people that want to know, like, where do I start? How do I get into this industry? Industry like news and trends is a huge. We have a whole division, LinkedIn News. The amazing thing about our platform is it's such a great place to consume news that is specific to your industry, and you can supply that through your content as nonprofit professionals. Also sharing your own professional news and announcements. I think that's really an important part of developing and building a brand. Behind the scenes content of your office or event, you'd be surprised at how curious people are to know how the sausage is made, to see how your organization functions, and to put a face to your organization, to your brand. Who are the people that make up these organizations? How did they get here? What makes them so passionate about that cause? Because if there's one thing that nonprofits have, in my experience, that over any other type of industry is passion. Like they are just so incredibly dedicated and devoted to their cause. And that's super compelling for any content that you're making. And
That's right.
any yeah, and any news that you may have as an organization, I think, that is super valid, and making sure people know what's going on and keeping the communication going between you and your kind of community.
Yeah, like one kind of tip I would share. So, as an example of this, like taking us behind the scenes. So, just recently, I produced and hosted the monthly giving summit, and it was virtual. So, I was doing it right here in my home office. And I just had a phone set up right to the corner on a tripod, filming me as I was talking. It showed that I was wearing my slippers, even though I had a blazer on top, like giving people sneak behind the scenes. I took my daughter to work that day. So it was like a funny video of like getting ready throughout the day and then what it was like actually behind the scenes, producing the multiple screens, having different documents up, having the Slack channel. So it's the ordinary things, but it just humanizes everything that you're doing. So if you have a golf tournament, if you have a gala, if you are having a board meeting, if you're think about like anything that you're doing that you can just be like, "Oh, let's document it, save it in like a shared folder drive," and you never know when you can utilize those pieces as B-roll or quick pieces of content to put copy over or something. Your nonprofit is powered by its people, and I've seen firsthand how stressful it can be when a key team member leaves. Finding someone who not only has the skills, but truly gets your mission is crucial. So, where should you look? 66% of surveyed nonprofit professionals say they've already used LinkedIn to source talent. That's why I was excited to discover what the LinkedIn for Nonprofits Resource Hub offers. From best practices to help you build a strong employer brand, to writing effective job descriptions and customizable templates for reaching out to promising candidates, everything is designed to give your nonprofit a competitive edge when you need to hire. With 22 million nonprofit professionals on LinkedIn today, plus all the amazing people in other sectors who might be dreaming about making a mission-driven career pivot, your dream hire is out there. LinkedIn for Nonprofits offers exclusive nonprofit discounts on hiring and employee development tools like LinkedIn Recruiter that can help you pinpoint people who meet your specific needs and reach out to them directly in a trusted professional environment, even if they're not actively looking for a new job. Get the resources and tools you need to make your next great hire by visiting nonprofit.linkedin.com.
Absolutely. And we could pull up those examples again. I think your mileage will vary depending on your organization. Like some of these content types, whether it's career tips and work lessons, that may make more sense if your organization's focused on workforce development. Then you can actually think about video as a way to extend your mission and extend the programming that you're doing as an organization and reach people potentially that you're not currently reaching. And if you're in the healthcare space, maybe, the industry news is super important to keep people up to date on research or anything else that's happening. So I think thinking about these types of top performing content and then picking and choosing, modifying what works for both you as a nonprofit and then what works for you as an individual, as a nonprofit professional who wants to create video content for LinkedIn.
Yeah, and I want to pull in, there's a comment that came in from Bailey, we see you, about struggling a way to produce video content when you necessarily can't show any faces. And I know this may be very common for many organizations where you're really sensitive to the nature of what your cause does. One thought from me, and then Scott, I'll toss it to you, is you can do some really clever text only videos that can be really impactful. Canva is a free tool for nonprofits to be able to utilize, can do some really clever editing and motion with text. You can also film, like if there's, I have an organization I'm working with right now actually that does community mindfulness. And so they don't like to show faces either, but we can show hands like coming together in a circle, or that they're gathering with the chairs, or if they're outside doing something, it's showcasing the outside with maybe backs of people, but not their faces. So there's lots of different ways you can get creative. Scott, any thoughts for organizations that might be struggling with that?
I love that question because it comes up a lot. And I think nonprofits, organizations are hesitant to show people's faces for a variety of reasons. And obviously, if you can't show the faces of the people that you serve, that makes complete sense. And I would also say this is such an important topic. Do not feature anybody on your social media in your content that has not given you express permission. So I'm gonna throw that out there. Some ideas I would have. I think what can be really powerful is stitching together different short clips, maybe from the work that you're doing that's relevant, and then doing a voiceover to voice over what some of the visuals people might be seeing, and then adding some text, adding some other types of overlays, any kind of visual treatments to the video. That can be another great way to avoid showing people's faces. I think if your organization's uncomfortable with showing, like, for example, your face as a nonprofit professional, it's worth having a conversation. You can maybe send them this video if you want, this event, but about how powerful it is to be able to let your employees empower them to be ambassadors for your organization, and to keep your these dialogue that is so valuable happening with your community.
That's huge. I honestly think, and this is actually in the video that we just shared around employees being your content creators, whether it's video through text only content on LinkedIn, no matter what level you might be, if you're just starting your career, if you're an ED, if you're a founder, it doesn't matter. The messy middle, like people want to see and hear. There's a really great video actually from an organization I just saw this morning that their founder was talking about what's going on with everything that was happening with federal grants. And so they were explaining to their organization, to their constituents, like what was happening for them and directing them to a landing page with more information. So I think to your point, yes, I would definitely talk about who are the stakeholders I feel comfortable that want to be on, but also to just encourage people to share their own unique personal stories about why the mission matters to them to amplify the work that you're doing on a platform like LinkedIn.
Yes, and I think one thing that can serve as a proof of concept if you're trying to get buy-in from your nonprofit to allow you to be on camera for your for LinkedIn or any other platform is to start creating videos yourself and posting them on your own personal LinkedIn or other channels, as long as you have, you're not violating any permissions or issues with your work is comfortable with it. Just to show like what it could be, like what it could look like. Super, super powerful. Well, I think we're going to get into a little bit of like content tips that honestly are valid to not just for nonprofits, but just kind of like in general for anybody thinking about creating video for LinkedIn. So once you kind of land on what the topic you want to do and you're thinking about how do you script it? What do you need to pull that together? And so an outline is super helpful. Some people like it more highly scripted. Some people just want to know, they just want something that prompts them so they can speak more off the cuff. I think, yeah, it can read as not as authentic if you're clearly reading off of a script. But the most important thing to reiterate around videos in terms of scripting is how important that intro is. That is what's going to make people stick around. What is going to stop them in their feed to actually watch your video? And so think about that first 3 seconds. What are you saying in there? What's your hook? And I think you can find different kinds of hooks online. But think one thing you think about is, you can do a listicle, like here are 3 ways. You can start by saying something kind of provocative or surprising or unexpected, and people go, huh, and they want to hear more. And so I think that sometimes people forget that anybody who's watching your content online is opting in, and you have to get that buy-in from them. It's not like, when you're sitting in a movie theater and they have commercials playing for the movie theater and you are a captive audience. This is the exact opposite of a captive audience. They may be watching you on one screen, someone else on another screen, and talking to someone else in their face. So what is going to really like hook them and make them, if not in that moment, watch it, maybe even revisit it later? Um, I also think sometimes people worry about like how much context they're setting up, but I would not be afraid to just sort of like dive into the story so you can kind of get to the meat of it earlier. And I think we have a really great example I want to share from an awesome nonprofit called Brown Bagging for Calgary's Kids. So let's check it out.
What if a simple drive could ensure kids have the food they need for the day? Our volunteers make sure kids across Calgary get the food they need, one delivery at a time. So, what's it really like to be a volunteer driver? Let's hear from Don McCrae.
It's not a very complicated job. I just come here one morning a week, fill up my car, go to about 6 or 7 schools, drop them off, and it's a really good feeling to know that some kids otherwise may not have these lunches if it wasn't for this wonderful program, and I'm very proud to be a part of it.
Sign up today to become a BB4CK delivery driver and support Calgary's kids.
I love this. That's such an amazing video. It hits a lot of great points. A super strong intro makes you want to know more. You're showing the people that make this incredible work happen. It's dynamic. I think that's what's really great about having stitching together a bunch of short clips is it keeps it visually interesting versus sometimes just having a single static shot of a person speaking to a screen. And we'll drop a link to that video in the chat. You should follow them, maybe even send them some money. But I love that example, and I think they even had a CTA at the end. So like call to action for anybody not in the marketing world. So like extra gold star for Brown Bagging for Calgary's Kids. And once you've kind of got the intro down, as important as I said, the middle portion of the video should really be kind of short and to the point. And we're seeing 30 to 90 seconds as the sweet spot in terms of video length. And believe me, that goes by really quickly. So just think about that and think about if it's running long, what can you do to edit it? I think sometimes people are afraid of chopping things up, like it'll look a certain way, but actually if it keeps the flow and the content coming, I think that really helps. And just remember that if you can't get everything in one video, make another video and then you've got more content.
Yes, a great example of that is a series. So if you have a signature, let's just say brown bagging is a great organization as an example, is there's multiple facets to what they do. It's not just the drivers, which we saw this sample of, but maybe there's a series of like, what's the whole experience like? Here's how we get the food. Here's how it's packaged. Here's the delivery. Here's the after when they're eating, like the whole process. And so you could do a signature series of 3-4 videos for your cause. So that's a great way to break it down.
Yeah, that's really great advice. And I think one way to just consider how you can get started is to just open up the app and do a little research, scroll some of the videos, take notes. What kept you watching? If you kept watching a video, what made you keep scrolling if you kept scrolling? And you get to the end of the video, like, why did you finish it? And really think like, was it the topic? Was it the location? I think something that's always amazing about some of the content I see on LinkedIn and other places is that sometimes I find myself watching a video about something I never would have expected to have been interested in the first place. And so then you do have to ask yourself, well, what got me to stick around and watch this? And how can I use that as inspiration for any video that might be making? And once you get all that scripting out of the way, I want to share some tips on filming. This definitely is broadly applicable no matter what kind of video content you're making. I think location is super important, lighting, figuring out where you're going to record. And my colleague, Casey Bitzberger on LinkedIn Editorial actually just shared a really informative video about this. So we will drop it in the chat. And I always prefer natural light. Sadly, today I was not able to secure natural light. If not, ring lights can be really great too. They're pretty inexpensive these days, but they can be really effective in terms of how you are lit. Next up, sound. So think about sound. So you're sharing great insights. You want people to be able to hear them without, turning the volume way up. And I would be really careful with some of the headphones that we all love and use. Sometimes those microphones, if they're Bluetooth, are not going to be giving you the best possible sound. So headphones, a tiny mic, absolutely do not forget to test it out. I have been fooled by this before with some microphones, only to discover that it was never recording. So just testing. And you definitely just don't want to be in a position where you have recorded a whole video and you can't hear anything. And I think we're giving all these tips on how to make it optimal, but do not let perfect be the enemy of good, and do not hype yourself up so much that you then just don't end up making anything. And what really is important is that you're building a relationship. You're being authentic to your nonprofit and to your values. So do not overthink it, I would say, and from stopping you from sharing a video. And we do have another example from a nonprofit who filmed a video in a very noisy place and did kind of a great job of mixing that sound in. And this is by City Harvest.
Today is my favorite food rescue of the year. We are here in the wake of the New York Produce Show at the Javits Center in Manhattan, and we've got just around 50 volunteers doing an incredible job taking all of the food left at the end of the show and packing it in these cardboard bins to be sent out to food pantries across the city. So we've seen some amazing stuff come through, a whole palette of berries, strawberries, blueberries, potatoes, watermelons, just sort of the whole gamut of fruits and vegetables. And it's really exciting to send some of the best produce in our state out to our food pantries and our neighbors in need.
And that's like such a great example. And similarly to our last video, I think just very visually dynamic. That was the Javits Center in New York City, here in New York City, very busy place, sound reverberating off the walls. So just thinking about, okay, if I can shoot somewhere where that's noisy, can I get somewhere else to do voiceover? Big fan of recording a separate voiceover. Anything you want to add on that, Dana?
I mean, I think the other part of the video which I really like is their branding. So if you notice in
Hmm.
watching this video, their captions were the same green as their brand. So throughout the whole video, they were very on point in their branding. And I was even thinking about it as I was watching it. You could almost create this script ahead of time if you know what's going to be happening to make sure you collect the right footage that you want in advance to be able to put it together afterwards. Or the flip way is, oh, we gathered all this content. Let me now stand here and do a voiceover with the content that I know that I have. So when she was talking about watermelons, you could see a watermelon was being lifted up. So you can really kind of prep these things, especially for certain events where you know you're going to be getting a lot of content and coverage.
100%. I thought the brand was actually integrated in really subtle but effective ways because
Yeah.
you just the signage and the different bagging and different materials in there. So that's a really great point that I appreciate that you shared.
Yeah, because I think also in an event like this, so this brings me back to I used to work on American Idol as a digital producer. And so we used to have to think about, I don't know if you knew that, Scott, fun
No, I
fact.
know that. I love that part of your lore.
Yeah. So we have to always think about what are we filming live while we are like, especially for pre-recorded part of the show, not the live part. What are we recording and sharing live? And then what's all the footage we're just collecting to share later? So sometimes if you're like starving for content, utilize one event and capture so many different things, testimonials from donors that are there, behind the scenes of the event. So think about what can we share live and then what can we bank to like hold on to and share later. That could be really impactful.
Yes, huge fan of banking your production, recording as much content as you can in one go so that then you can chop that up into multiple pieces of content later. So you're not always sitting at your desk being like, what should I make a video about today? Because you've done the work of it's like meal prep, honestly. It's like you're putting together something so then you don't have to think about it later in the week. So yeah, meal prep, bank your content. So finally, on like setting up for your success, you're gonna want to choose a format. One of the things I mentioned before that really surprises people about LinkedIn is vertical video. Most people are on LinkedIn on their phones. Video should be in a vertical format. If it's not, that's not the end of the world, of course. I think 4 by 5 or 1 by 1 is a backup, but I think 9 by 16 is preferred. And just think about, is it a selfie video? Are you filming yourself? Are you going to put it, where are you going to put it? Are you propping it up? Are you using a stand? Are you using, one of those Octo Buddies where you can slap the camera onto a piece of glass and record a video? Finally, do a little practice run, optional, but I find that really helps make me feel a little bit confident and ready for what I'm about to say. So just to recap, you want to think about lighting, sound, your format, and then just do a little practice run. And then once you've recorded your video and you feel good about it, let's talk about editing, which maybe sounds boring to other people, but I love it. I don't love doing it, but I love talking about it. You don't necessarily, there are a lot of really great tools out there, including, InShot, CapCut, Captions. There are Canva is another great one, and Canva is actually free for nonprofits. If you didn't know that, super incredible tool that you can use to create content. And I would say do feel empowered to trim your videos down, add a little bit of graphics. Adding music can be really great as well. Just be really mindful about not overpowering with the music because that can be really, commercial music doesn't always have the most amazing sound, but they want to hear you. Like that's the point of the video is to hear you and your wisdom. So you don't want to be competing with any of the music. And finally, I don't use any content created by people without their permission. I think this is it's been a kind of a gray area with celebrities and different content, but it's just really important that when you're using someone's likeness or image that they have approved it. And finally, do not crop your video because it does reduce the quality and can cause some problems when you're uploading to the platform. And finally, just a little quick note on sort of like captions and copy. I would say don't be afraid to write a fair amount of copy on your post to help kind of complement your video and tell a richer story as well. And I think it helps the platform kind of understand your video a little better when you have text and you have captions. And it also helps if someone's just scrolling through LinkedIn and they don't actually they can't watch your video, but they can click through and expand and see what you have to say. So don't be afraid to share a long caption that works even if they don't read it or if they do. And then captions, super important. LinkedIn does have auto captions, so that's absolutely an option for you. But also these tools have there's third-party captioning tools that can be great because sometimes those also can be a little bit more dynamic. You can emphasize specific words. You can have the words be bigger, smaller, underline, different colors, and that can help you get your point across more dynamically. And I would just say, like, make sure that your captions are not in the bottom third of the video, because that can sometimes make it harder to read. We call these like safe zones. So making sure that your content is within the safe zones of the video. And once you've had, captions, copy, then you hit post. And so I want to share a quick video that brings kind of all these tips we share to life. This is from the LinkedIn for Nonprofits page, which features insights from the Climb Higher CEO Sorby grant.
I predict more nonprofits will embrace skills-based hiring because the data shows it's by far the most effective hiring practice. Nonprofits will embrace the practices we always talk about at Climb Higher. They'll do this because the research shows that skills-based hiring predicts job performance 2 times better than work experience and 5 times better than education. They'll make skill-based hires and see that these folks stay 9% longer than traditional hires. We'll see a nonprofit space that is more efficient, more diverse, and more innovative. And we'll see a cohort of new hires who bring the skills and the staying power.
So I really love what that video does. It's so simple. It's clear, has captions. And then so once you posted a video, it's like, what next? And I think it's important that you respond to the comments that you're seeing from people to really make sure you're building that relationship. This is not a one-way street. This is a back and forth and a dialogue. See what's working. And I think that's what's one of the biggest challenges is these last 2 parts is to see what's resonating. You have to have a baseline of video content to actually know what works. And so don't get disheartened if the first one doesn't track the way that you wanted to. But that consistency, as you'll hear a lot of professional creators talk about, is so important with any kind of video content that you're making. And just because someone didn't comment or engage, it does not mean they didn't find value out of the video. Videos is a pretty passive activity. They're kind of scrolling, they're commuting, they're doing all kinds of things while they watch. So don't feel like because they didn't engage that they didn't have any kind of impact. And finally, don't compare and despair. Don't look at other organizations and see their videos performing better or not. You have to start somewhere and just really taking note of that as you kind of get started on posting videos. And to tie everything together, I want to share one more example from the Nature Conservancy. And I think this is a great example of a nonprofit video done right from an awesome organization. So let's take a look.
What's your go-to trick for cutting down waste? We'll go first. Learn to compost. It helps keep organic matter out of the landfill.
Keep a few extra containers in your back seat. Next time you go out for dinner, you'll already have a box for your leftovers.
Support your local farmers market and try to grow products that use less packaging. Instead of buying new books, get a library card and visit your local library.
Ditch the single-use plastic. I take this bottle with me everywhere I go.
When possible, shop at refill stores or buy in bulk to reduce packaging. Remember, even small steps can help contribute to a more environmentally friendly future. Like and follow to learn more ways to reduce waste and share your ideas in the comments.
Well, love that video, and thank you to the Nature Conservancy team for sharing it with us. I know there's a lot of information delivered fairly quickly. Don't worry if you didn't catch every word. This is recorded and available, replayable after the conversation. And definitely make sure to go to our nonprofits resource hub. There's an amazing LinkedIn Learning course as well to go even deeper into video creation. But Dana, would love your reflections and some of just video best practices that you really think about.
Yeah, I think that last video was a really good example of it sharing information that comes so second nature to maybe your organization and what you intrinsically do every day, but might not be aware to everyone else. And so you all have knowledge. Again, I go back to like a subject matter expert of what are the ways that you can encourage others. And one example I'm just thinking of, one of my monthly giving mastermind clients right now is a food organization in Sanford, Florida. And I was reading one of their blogs recently, which was all about putting together these kindness kits to give to homeless people that they might see. And I could easily see that blog post created into video form, like packaging it. Why do we put this in there? Why do we put this in there? How do you engage and hand it out? How do you make sure you do this in a safe manner? Like I could absolutely see that in video form. So my recommendation is these are amazing tips. Look through blogs, look through newsletters, think about your recent webinars, think about your events, and just start to like do a what if brainstorm dump on what could be sample videos that you could start to test, ones that have people's faces, ones that don't, and just start to, hopefully that gets you excited about the possibility and the opportunity to, like you just said, you just have to start and have a baseline to see what's going to work best, and you might be surprised. So I think it's just get started and have fun with it. Let this be, like you just said, sometimes if somebody doesn't comment, don't take it too personally. There's a whole bunch of lurkers on social media, but that doesn't mean they're not viewing it. And so you'll even notice in the video that I shared earlier, 1.8 million impressions, there weren't a million people commenting on it. However, they saw it. And so hopefully it's thought of when they're thinking about certain strategies for marketing this year. So have fun. I hope this inspires some brainstorming. And I know there's a few extra tips we're going to share, and we'd love to get in the chat with some of your specific questions too.
Yeah, absolutely. And I see one from Sherry. I think it'd be great to give a little bit. What is the basic equipment for an inexpensive video studio? I think as you speak into your microphone, you seem very qualified to answer this question.
Thanks. I mean, for a video, I would literally say, Sherry, your phone. This is an example of a portable ring light. So I don't even know if this was $10. So it's like 3 different levels if you can see it getting brighter. It clips right onto your phone on the top. But oftentimes I have a window to my right, and I like using, Scott, like you said, natural light. And then I have my tiny mic here, which if I'm going to be in a noisy place, or even if I'm just here, but I want my phone to maybe be a little bit further away from me and I'm not super up close to it, this tiny mic captures better quality audio. So I would say this is a $25 setup to get started. And then you mentioned a bunch of great editing tools, and a lot of them are free. And you can do on your phone, or you can do them on your computer, and that's it.
Yeah, those are all really easy. And I do find myself sometimes, even when I have some of those tools, I'm using very DIY things. I'm propping a phone on a windowsill because it has the best lighting, or other kinds of quick and easy ways. I think it can be very easy to get in our own way, and we're like, oh, I don't have the mic today, or I don't have all my equipment. And just figuring out, don't let that stop you every time. And another question we have, I see we have questions about how to get more visibility on, from Nicole, any tips for getting more eyes on videos shared to a company page? I think that's a really great question. I think, so I manage LinkedIn's company page. And I will say that getting more eyes on that video content, a lot of that comes from having a good content mix generally, and posting a lot of different content. It's engaging your employees, having them engage with your content can be really valuable for getting more eyeballs on it. The consistency really helps, and really thinking about what your audience on LinkedIn wants to hear from you. And as you start to get more eyeballs and more clicks and views, tailoring your content accordingly. Anything you wanted to add to that, Dana?
Yeah, no, I think that's right. I think it honestly is just it's testing and trying and seeing what's going to work best. I also love go to some of the organizations that we shared today as examples to their pages because they're sharing more than just that one video that we shared with you. I love getting inspiration. Even if you want to maybe search for organizations within your cause area, and you can see what might be performing best for them or see what's working. And I definitely recommend posting videos on the page, but then having your employees help share those to increase some reach and visibility as well.
Well, that's a good segue into this question from Abby about how would you suggest encouraging staff and volunteers to get involved and to be on camera? People-centered content is something I'm passionate about, but it's definitely not easy to get buy-in. Thoughts on that, Dana?
Yeah, I mean, I would say if you can, the point is to amplify the mission. And I'm sure they want your organization to grow. And so if you're like, we really want to give people a sneak behind the scenes of the incredible work that you do, would you be able to be highlighted? Can we showcase? And I think it's the words that sometimes that you use. We'd love to highlight and showcase what an amazing job that you're doing, especially for volunteers, and staff in the same way. People give to people. Right? We want to see ourselves reflected in other organizations. And that's really how we feel meaningful connection, where we can just hear from somebody else and resonate with what they're doing. So I would say to encourage volunteers is to share it in a way where can we highlight you? We want to amplify the work that we're doing. This is a great way for people to see that. And for staff, every staff member might not want to be on camera, but maybe there's a couple who would love to do that, and give them the opportunity to shine in that way and just see how everybody wants to use their unique gifts for the work that you're doing.
Yeah, definitely. And it can be a great development opportunity if someone's looking to stretch themselves and what they do, especially if they're in kind of a marketing or comms capacity. One last question I wanted to answer because I feel really strongly about this one from Carol. I'm afraid to make a video and be too similar to the other social media. Shouldn't LinkedIn language be different? I think that this is in many ways a misconception about LinkedIn. I think people have this idea that it's got to be more professional, more buttoned up. It's got to be more professional in that you're not going to put some of the less appropriate things, but that's not relevant to a nonprofit because anything you're doing is professional. So I would just think about how if you know your audience on LinkedIn, and if you need to tailor your content from other channels to LinkedIn, you can do a lot of that just through the caption copy. But I think largely people have this idea in their head that, oh, this won't be a good fit for LinkedIn. But you're never going to know that if you don't try. So you may have a goofy video you post on TikTok or Instagram and you think, well, that's not really a LinkedIn appropriate. Well, maybe let your audience decide that and see what takes off and what resonates. Because especially when it comes to humor, super passionate about this and know we can end on, we spend too much time at work to not laugh. So do not be afraid to integrate humor into your content.
Yes.
You're doing difficult work too, some of you. So I think a lot of you know how important laughter and humor is in your work generally. And I think that applies to content as well.
Absolutely. And I would say, think about that when you're coming up with your content plan. And people want to not only contribute towards, but work for organizations that showcase their people, that are having a good time, that are impacting the world, right? So if you can showcase that through video content, you're off to the races.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for all the incredible questions. Hope that this has inspired you to get started today. If you want more tips, best practices, examples, make sure to visit our LinkedIn for Nonprofits resource hub. There's a QR code that'll be popping up on the screen. And thank you to Dana for joining us. And before you leave, if everyone in the audience could take a quick survey to let us know about your thoughts on the event. Sandy or Caitlin will drop it in the chat, and we'll also drop that on the screen as well. And that feedback just helps us make these even better for the future. And feel free to connect with myself or follow. I don't want to speak for Dana if she doesn't want connection requests, but just to let us know you watched, and happy to take the conversation off to
Yeah.
get
We'd
to
love
know.
tag us in your videos. We'd love to
Oh,
see them.
yes,
We can
please.
provide some like comments, some tweaks, some just like shout you down and give you some engagement. Like, please, when you're working on it, I know it just feels so good when you feel seen, when you've worked on something so hard. So tag Scott or I in your videos. Would love, 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 love to see it.
Amazing. Thanks for joining us and have a great rest of your day.
Thanks, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning into today's episode of Missions to Movements. If you enjoyed our conversation and found it helpful, I would love for you to take a moment to leave a review wherever you're listening. Your feedback helps us reach more change makers like you and continue bringing impactful stories and strategies to the show. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button too, so you'll never miss an episode. And until next time, keep turning your mission into a movement.